Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. This is going to be a reading on events in Guyana and Venezuela. I did a brief reading on this just to get familiar with the situation. It appears that there's been a border dispute about this territory that was allegedly resolved back in the late 1800s in its current form. Venezuela is saying that really isn't accurate. You go back to the 1700s when they had more territory in there. But long and short of it, everything was fine until they found a bunch of oil. Or ExxonMobil found a bunch of oil in that territory in Guyana. And that was back in 2015. So now, of course, now that there's something valuable there, now we're going to have a fight over it. Venezuela, or officials in Caracas had a measure that came through. Caracas called for a referendum after Guyana started auctioning off oil blocks in Essequibo in August. Voters were asked to respond to 5 questions, including whether Venezuela should reject the 1899 arbitration decision, as well as the ICJ's jurisdiction. They were asked whether Venezuelan citizenship should be granted to the people who are currently Guyanese and a new Guyana Essequibo state. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing that. And officials in Caracas said 95% of the voters supported these measures. Okay, I want you to think about that for a second. 95% of people voted that way. Reminds me of the Saddam Hussein elections where 95% voted for him. Really? 5% voted against you. Did you find those 5% and execute him? Really? I don't think anybody... You know what? If you were to poll people in the U.S., if water was wet, I don't think you could get 95% of people to agree that it was. Or the sky was blue. Yeah, 95%. No. That to me screams rigged election. The only reason why it's 95% is that some people clearly weren't smart enough to check the correct box. You know what I mean? So the U.S. has started war games in Guyana to basically show that their support. Guyana has reached out to India, Cuba, and the U.S. for diplomatic support, and they want to resolve this diplomatically. So what's the energy around this territory? Okay. We have the tower. Things crashing down. Sudden endings to things. So, Venezuela is ramping up the rhetoric, and you got war games going on. So I think that the situation, it would seem to indicate that things are deteriorating over there. And what's crossed, though, is that although it's deteriorating quickly, there's still the offer out there to discuss the situation and come to a resolution. This resolution is going to take a lot of work. Obviously involves money. This whole thing's about money. It's about oil and being able to sell the oil. And Venezuela's, if I'm not mistaken, they had all sorts of wonderful social programs, if I'm remembering this correctly. And then oil prices dropped, and then all of a sudden they couldn't afford to pay for all those social programs. So then the government basically contracted, new governments come in, and now they're trying to basically hold on to the money as best they can. And now there's an opportunity to go grab all this oil in a province next to you. And that's what they're smelling. They smell money and they want it. So this is about money and work to avoid a catastrophic situation. In the past, we have temperance. Court cases have been judged over 120 years ago, and everything was fine until money became involved in it. Then all of a sudden it's not so fine anymore. But up until that point, they had been getting along well enough, I suppose. I imagine there's always tensions in an area like that, but not much was happening there. Current situation. Okay, so we go Page of Pentacles. I think this is the offer for negotiations for a diplomatic solution, and it might involve offering some money or some type of compensation to Venezuela for it. The current situation is Page of Pentacles, but it's going to be graduating to a Knight of Pentacles. So I think those talks are going, as the work is done, those talks will advance and progress. I don't want to say heat up here. The problem that you're running into, though, is that if I'm not mistaken, Basuro is the leader of Venezuela, and I don't believe, or is it Maduro? I have to let me look it up real quick here as I risk the pause button. Okay, and we're back. Okay, it is Maduro, and there were election irregularities back in like 2018 or whatever the last elections were. Opposition parties were banned or excluded from it. It had the lowest turnout in election history. So this is a corrupt government. Basically, it's a corrupt government, entertainment purposes only. Well, we always laugh about corruption in government, right? So it's not a surprise. So what we've got here is this attitude mindset, and I don't believe this is coming from Venezuela, that they believe this belongs to them and they're going to take what belongs to them. So negotiating with somebody like that is difficult and takes a lot of work because they don't want to give up anything. They want it all for themselves. They don't want to share. Or maybe they're trying to project their desire to have everything that they want, saying, oh, well, they're denying us our fair share. The lesson to be learned is about cooperation. Guess what? There's enough for everybody. There's enough money here for everybody's cup. There's room for compromise. I don't know how that compromise will look, but there's room for compromise here. Everybody can win on this one. The outcome is the Emperor. It's really up to Maduro. He's the one who's forcing this issue. But I think also, this might actually, this is the United States. The United States is the big dog in this fight. And if they're doing war games with Guyana, then, and again, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it, it's really going to go ahead, Venezuela, go ahead and invade if the U.S. is providing protection. See what happens to you. It's that sort of thing. It's not really, F around and find out, but it's kind of they'll bluster, they'll make a lot of noise, but they know they don't dare do a thing while the U.S. is there. It's not worth the fight. That'll happen. And, the sanctions that the U.S. can bring to bear on Venezuela. Again, I think Guyana is wise in trying to get not only the U.S. but India and to get Cuba involved in it. Brazil is bringing troops to its borders with Venezuela just to make sure the Venezuelan army knows where the borders are and stays on their half of the border. You know what I mean? And not try and cut through Brazil to get there. Okay, so I want to know is how is the president of Venezuela going to handle this situation? How is he going to handle the situation with the presence of the U.S. there, military buildup by Brazil, and calls for diplomatic resolution? How is the Brazilian president going to handle how is the Venezuelan president going to handle this? The world's watching. It's pretty much him against the world. Again, when you've got Cuba and India and the United States and your neighbor from Brazil, this isn't this isn't the Falklands type of thing. Argentina grabbing the Falklands while the Brits were away. So the world is watching. I believe he thinks he's fighting from a position of strength because of that referendum that said 95% of the people want to be Venezuelan. That's lunacy. That isn't the reality. It really isn't. Underneath it all, I think he sees this as a huge opportunity to help Venezuela. And, in some ways, be a keynote, a keystone in his in his reign over Venezuela. A lot of egotism here. Ace of Swords. Yeah, he thinks this referendum and his ideas, he's got great ideas. And this is something that needs to happen because it's almost like it's destined. It's destined that this country come back to them. It was taken away unfairly, and now he's going to fight like hell to get it back. That's kind of his mindset. Current situation, I was talking about they're looking for a diplomatic solution. I'm not sure he's really so interested in a diplomatic solution. He sees dollar signs. What he sees is dollar signs. And the dollar signs isn't for Brazil, isn't for Venezuela, it's for him. This is trickle-down economics. They'll get billions and the peasants will get nickels. Here's some nickels for you. He's delusional, though. He's not in his right mind. He's not thinking clearly. It's almost like he's being blinded by greed. So he's coming up with crazy ideas to justify this because he wants the money. And that money's going to him. It's not going to the people. It's going to go to him. So in order to you're going to have to offer him a bunch of money or something of value in order to get him to back off of this. If you're going to buy him out, he wants to be bought out big time. And he's not going to like the offers that are being given to him. No. I think he's on a collusion course with an invasion in that area. He really is on a collusion course with it because he's only seeing the money and he thinks he's got a righteous cause. He's fighting the good fight. He's going to bring an end to an injustice that was done 130 years ago. And, he was saying it should go back to where the river was in the 1800s or the 1700s, not where the Accords agreed to where it was going to be. Yeah, this guy's not giving up. He is not giving up even a little bit. Again, I think there's going to be diplomatic efforts being made and pressures being made, but he's got this in mind. He doesn't have like the Page of Pentacles or even the Nine of Pentacles. He wants the Ace. He wants big money. He sees big money there and he's going for it. Maybe he thinks the U.S. doesn't have the stomach to intervene. So I don't know. So now it's up to the diplomats to make sure that he understands the consequences of the action. Okay, so given Maduro's current state of mind, or how he's going to approach this diplomacy, how is the U.S. going to react diplomatically to this situation? All right, let's come on down. All right, how's the U.S. going to react? Walking away. I don't think the U.S. is going to walk. Well, they could walk away from Guyana. That's for sure. Maybe they see him walking away from diplomacy. Let's see. Fighting, arguing, bickering. I think negotiations are going to break down. They're going to try and negotiate with them, and they're getting nowhere. There's just nothing but arguing. There's going to be a breakdown. Strong emotions in here. And I think this is basically Venezuela being unreasonable. Venezuela is going to be, again, that righteousness that this is our territory, we're taking it, and they have that passion. They're going to walk away from negotiations. They want this territory. Yep, there's that narcissism card. The winner takes all, that overall overarching energy in the situation. So this is in the past. What was the overarching energy is now the past here. So we'll see how this is kind of like progressing, how the U.S. is reacting to the situation after that. Waiting for a ship to come in. How is the U.S.? Is that a diplomatic ship? Is that diplomatic opportunities? They're getting ready. They're making preparations. This could be, you've got the war games going on. I don't know if this necessarily represents the war games, but this could be like moving, if the U.S. has a carrier fleet in the Pacific or in that area, moving a carrier fleet over there just to send even stronger signals of what the U.S. intention is. There's disappointment. Negotiations, I don't think, are going well because Venezuela is not being reasonable. So, there's not that disappointment that not more can be done. Oh God, these are horrible cards. Yeah, I think, and this could even start like guerrilla warfare going in. This is, again, to me, this is Venezuela going in and taking. They're not waiting for a diplomatic solution. They're going to go in and take. And then the outcome, when they try to have, just like with the Venezuela, the outcome is offers that nobody is liking. Because there is so much emotion and so much money involved in this, neither side is liking basically what I'm getting this. The diplomatic solution's not working in this case. Honestly, I really think there's going to be conflict. It might be skirmishing, it might be guerrilla type conflict, but there's going to be conflict down there. That's not what I was hoping to read on this. Okay. I thought I was going to be done here, but let's just ask. Will there be armed conflict in that territory? Will there be armed conflict? Can you describe to me what type of conflict we might be seeing? That Five of Wands energy, the Five of Swords energy changing. Work harder. Temperance. They managed to keep the peace for so long and keep going for so long. Lovers, there were agreements in place to separate the two. The world is watching. These are actually really nice cards. Injustice. Okay, I think tensions are going to really rise. There might be some conflicts that are involved in there. But I think eventually diplomacy is going to happen. It just could very well be that those four cups are the U.S. doesn't get what they want, Venezuela doesn't get what they want. And maybe the international courts that Venezuela will recognize are going to step in and try and resolve this issue to the benefits of both, but also be just and fair. It'll take a while. It'll take a lot of negotiations in delays to get that. This might also, there were contracts that were being sold for drilling, and those contracts may be put on hold until this thing's resolved, so they know who gets what, that sort of thing. Again, I'm not sure how this all is going to work out, but I think tensions rise. I think there's some conflicts. And maybe while there's conflicts going on, there's still a diplomatic resolution that goes forward. And, maybe it's a good thing if Venezuela doesn't get what they want and the U.S. doesn't get what they want. Maybe the South American communities get what they need. And the U.S. doesn't necessarily have to be, patrolling South America and South American affairs. We'll see what happens. Okay. Thank you for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for all your kind words and everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so my video makes it out to a wider audience. To newer viewers, welcome to the channel. Hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.